There is no question that having a mall in my life changed everything for me.
We're very happy.
She's an amazing human being.
I got a brilliant, beautiful wife.
George Clooney's love life has been the center of endless Hollywood speculation. From being dubbed the world's most eligible bachelor to marrying one of the most accomplished women in the world, Amal Alamuddin, Clooney's romantic journey has played out like a movie script. But what if the fairy tale marriage that captivated millions wasn't as perfect as it seemed? Recently, Clooney broke his silence in an interview that left fans stunned, revealing a deeply personal truth about his marriage. His mistakes and the emotional toll that fame takes behind closed doors. Clooney has always been the man with charm, wit, and confidence, but his latest confession showed a side of him few have ever seen before. He spoke about the pressures of balancing a global career, fatherhood, and the expectations that come with being part of one of Hollywood's most admired couples. His voice trembled as he admitted that sometimes the spotlight becomes too heavy to bear, and the reality of love fades behind the glare of cameras. Was this a quiet confirmation of the rumors that have surrounded his marriage for months, or a rare, honest reflection from a man who's finally ready to put his heart before his fame? What Clooney revealed next shocked even his closest friends, and left fans wondering whether one of Hollywood's last golden couples has reached a heartbreaking end. When George Clooney and Amal Alamuddin first appeared together, the world collectively gasped. Here was the eternal bachelor of Hollywood, the man who once swore he would never marry again, suddenly head over heels for a brilliant human rights lawyer who seemed to exist in an entirely different world. Their union wasn't just romantic, it was symbolic. George represented the pinnacle of fame and charm, while Amal embodied intellect, grace, and purpose. Together, they became the couple that everyone admired and envied. Their love story began in 2013, when a mutual friend introduced them at a charity dinner. Clooney later admitted that the moment he met Amal, he knew his life was about to change forever. In just a year, they were married in a lavish ceremony in Venice, surrounded by celebrities, diplomats, and family. The event was straight out of a dream. Candle-lit gondolas, flowing champagne, and the unmistakable glow of two people deeply in love. For a while, it seemed Clooney had finally found what he had been missing all those years: peace, purpose, and a true partner. But behind the glamour, things weren't always picture-perfect. Sources close to the couple claimed that Amal's demanding career often kept her traveling across the globe, while George's film commitments took him in the opposite direction. They were both incredibly successful, but success came at a price. Their schedules rarely aligned, and even when they were together, the weight of public attention never truly let them breathe. Every move, every smile, every moment of silence was analyzed by tabloids hungry for cracks in their fairy tale. Still, Clooney remained steadfast, proudly calling Amal the love of my life. He often credited her with making him a better man, more grounded, more thoughtful, and more aware of the world outside Hollywood. When they welcomed twins Ella and Alexander in 2017, George seemed transformed. Friends said fatherhood had mellowed him, and he often described his family as his greatest joy. Yet, as years passed, whispers began to surface. Insiders noticed the couple appearing together less frequently, and some claimed that the pressures of fame and distance were taking a quiet toll. George's smile remained, but those close to him said it didn't quite reach his eyes. Amal, always composed and dignified, never addressed the speculation, choosing instead to focus on her work and her children. When George finally decided to speak out, it wasn't through a press statement or a carefully crafted PR move. It was in an emotional conversation where he opened up about what it truly means to maintain love in a world that never stops watching. "Marriage is work," he confessed softly. "It's love, yes, but it's also learning to live with another person under a spotlight that burns brighter than you could ever imagine." He admitted that fame often distorts reality, that the world sees smiles on red carpets, but not the quiet struggles at home. "You start losing yourself," he said. "You try to protect your partner from the chaos, but sometimes you end up creating more of it. It wasn't a confession of guilt, nor a public announcement of separation, but it was enough to make fans wonder. Was George Clooney hinting that his marriage had reached a breaking point? Or was he simply reflecting on the universal challenges that even the most powerful couples face? For the first time, Clooney wasn't the suave actor or the confident producer. He was just a man vulnerable, reflective, and honest. And as his words spread across headlines worldwide, one question echoed louder than ever. Had Hollywood's golden couple quietly fallen apart? To the outside world, George and Amal Clooney were the embodiment of perfection, a union of brilliance and beauty. They graced magazine covers, attended global summits, and supported humanitarian causes together. Every appearance seemed effortless. But insiders say the reality behind closed doors was far more complex. Their schedules, their ambitions, and the relentless pressure of public scrutiny began to create tiny cracks in their once unshakable bond. George had spent decades living in the chaotic rhythm of Hollywood, endless shoots, media tours, and the constant chase for perfection. Amal, on the other hand, was deeply rooted in the world of law and global justice, handling cases that demanded both emotional and physical resilience. They came from two different worlds, a source close to the couple revealed. Their love was real, but their lifestyles couldn't have been more different. While George was accustomed to the red carpets and flashing cameras, Amal's world revolved around international courts, humanitarian missions, and quiet diplomacy. At first, they found balance in those differences. His charisma complemented her intellect. But over time, the distance between their realities began to grow. Amal's travel commitments often kept her abroad for weeks at a time, while George, despite scaling back his acting career, still juggled directing projects and business ventures. Then came the challenge of raising twins in that whirlwind. Parenthood, though joyful, brought new responsibilities and emotional strain. George once joked that he had traded late-night parties for sleepless nights with crying babies, but there was truth behind the humor. The transition from Hollywood's most carefree bachelor to a hands-on father wasn't easy, and Amal's demanding workload left little room for downtime. They loved their kids deeply, an insider shared, but they struggled to find time for each other. Rumors of separation began circulating after the couple started appearing less frequently at public events. Some claimed George preferred a quieter life at their Lake Como villa, while Amal's commitments kept her in London and The Hague. Others whispered that George was growing restless, craving the balance he once had before fame and family collided. Clooney's recent interview, however, gave a rare glimpse into the emotional reality behind those rumors. He admitted that fame has a strange way of magnifying problems that would otherwise seem small. "It's not that the love goes away," he said carefully. "It's that the world doesn't give you space to fix things privately." Every disagreement becomes a headline. He revealed that there were nights when he questioned everything, not because the love had faded, but because the noise around them was too loud to ignore. "When you wake up and the first thing you see are rumors about your marriage, it starts to eat at your peace," he confessed. "You begin to ask yourself what's real and what's just the image people want to see." For a man who built his career on charm and composure, Clooney's vulnerability was disarming. He didn't lash out or deny the rumors. Instead, he spoke with quiet resignation, as if acknowledging that love in the public eye comes with its own breaking points. "We're human," he said simply. "We make mistakes. We drift, we return, we try again. But sometimes love gets caught in the crossfire of the life we chose." Those words left fans heartbroken and deeply curious. Was George confessing that he and Amal were heading toward divorce? Or was he describing the universal struggle of trying to hold on to love in an unforgiving world? Either way, his honesty peeled back the polished layers of Hollywood perfection, revealing the fragile humanity that lies beneath even the brightest stars. As George Clooney's confession spread across the internet, the headlines painted a heartbreaking picture. But behind the noise, there was a quieter truth, one that spoke to the emotional toll of fame and the fragility of even the strongest relationships. For years, George and Amal had defied the odds, balancing demanding careers and raising twins while living under the constant gaze of the world. Yet no one can truly prepare for how fame transforms even the most personal aspects of life. Those closest to the couple revealed that George had been struggling to maintain a sense of normalcy. Despite his wealth and success, he often longed for simplicity: dinners without paparazzi, walks without cameras, and conversations without constant interruptions. Amal, deeply committed to her work, admired his passion, but often found herself torn between global responsibilities and the desire to protect her family's privacy. They loved each other deeply, one friend noted, but love doesn't erase exhaustion. Over time, that exhaustion turned into distance. George began spending longer periods at their Lake Como home, enjoying the peace and isolation it offered. Amal, meanwhile, continued her advocacy work in Europe and the Middle East, often traveling with their children when schedules allowed. Their lives became a delicate balancing act, one that increasingly revolved around logistics rather than shared moments. Clooney's confession hinted at this emotional drift. He spoke not of betrayal or bitterness, but of quiet sorrow. "Sometimes the hardest thing isn't losing love," he said. "It's realizing that time, pressure, and circumstance can change what love looks like." His words carried the weight of experience, the kind of truth only someone who's lived through both fame and heartbreak could understand. Insiders say George's revelation wasn't a publicity stunt or an attempt to garner sympathy. It was a release, a moment of honesty after years of trying to uphold an image that no longer reflected reality. "George was always the one holding things together," a friend explained. "He didn't want people to think he'd failed at marriage, especially after finding someone like Amal. But deep down, he knew they were living separate lives." The couple reportedly tried counseling and extended breaks from work to reconnect, but the gap between them only widened. George's world was emotional and creative. Amal's was intellectual and structured. Their strengths once complemented each other, but over time those differences became barriers. The man who once said he'd never marry again had finally met someone who changed his mind. Yet even that love story couldn't escape the harsh truth of reality. When asked directly about the rumors of divorce, George neither confirmed nor denied them. Instead, he offered a somber reflection. "Sometimes two people can love each other completely and still grow apart. It doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It just means life took you in different directions." Those words hit fans like a thunderbolt. They weren't the defensive remarks of a celebrity hiding behind a publicist. They were the heartfelt musings of a man confronting loss with grace. Whether or not George and Amal have officially separated remains uncertain, but one thing became clear. Their journey, once a symbol of perfection, had become a lesson in vulnerability. As the cameras fade and the headlines move on, Clooney's confession stands as a rare glimpse into the emotional cost of living life under a microscope. Behind every smile on the red carpet lies a story untold, one of sacrifice, misunderstanding, and love struggling to survive in the glare of fame. And perhaps that's what makes his confession so powerful. It isn't just about George Clooney and Amal Alamuddin. It's about the universal truth that even the strongest hearts can break when reality collides with the dream. After his heartfelt confession, George Clooney's world seemed to shift. The man who had once been the epitome of confidence and charisma was now speaking from a place of deep vulnerability. For the first time in decades, the Hollywood icon wasn't playing a role. He was simply being human. The world had seen him as the charming actor, the devoted husband, the doting father. But now, he was opening up about the weight of maintaining those identities all at once. When asked what led him to finally speak out, George's response was both raw and revealing. "I owed it to myself, to be honest," he said. "You spend so much time pretending everything's fine because that's what people expect. But silence can become a prison." His words struck a chord with millions who had followed his story for years. It wasn't just a confession, it was an admission of emotional exhaustion. Clooney described how fame can trap you in an image that's impossible to maintain. You start living for the cameras, for the fans, for the headlines, he said quietly. And somewhere along the way, you lose sight of who you really are. That loss of identity, he admitted, had seeped into his marriage, creating an invisible wall between him and Amal. The two had once shared laughter, adventure, and purpose, but now they found themselves speaking less and feeling more distant. Despite the heartbreak, George's tone remained respectful when speaking about Amal. He praised her brilliance, her strength, and her unwavering dedication to justice. "She's an incredible woman," he said softly. "There's no resentment, only gratitude for the years we shared. But sometimes, loving someone also means letting them go." Those words echoed around the world, interpreted by many as confirmation that the couple had indeed gone their separate ways. Yet Clooney never issued a formal statement. There was no dramatic announcement, no press release, only quiet acceptance. It was as if he wanted the truth to speak for itself, without the usual Hollywood theatrics. Friends say George has been spending more time in Lake Como, reflecting and focusing on his children. The once bustling home now serves as a peaceful retreat where he can think, write, and heal away from the spotlight. "He's not bitter," one close friend shared. "He's just learning to live again, this time on his own terms." Amal, meanwhile, continues her humanitarian work with the same grace and strength that first captured George's heart. Though the two remain private, insiders claim they've chosen to co-parent amicably, putting their twins' happiness above everything else. It's a quiet ending to a love story that once captivated millions, a reminder that even in heartbreak, dignity can prevail. In the final moments of his interview, Clooney left viewers with a message that resonated deeply. You can have everything: success, fame, money, but none of it means anything if you lose yourself along the way. The real journey isn't about finding love. It's about staying true to who you are, even when life pulls you apart. That single statement summed up not just his marriage, but his entire evolution as a man. From the charming playboy of the 90s to the reflective father and husband of today, George Clooney's story is one of growth, pain, and acceptance. His confession wasn't a scandal. It was a mirror held up to the reality that even the strongest bonds can be tested by time and fame. And while fans continue to hope for reconciliation, Clooney's final words linger with quiet finality. "I'll always care for her," he said with a faint smile. But sometimes love changes form, and all you can do is honor what it was. As the camera faded and the interview ended, the world was left in silence, a silence that spoke louder than any headline ever could.